Hi everyone. I'm going to be talking about English and how it's different from English. In particular, I'm talking about the type of English that is communication between speakers of Japanese and why that should not be considered a part of English. Okay, so I'm not talking about purely decorative English, and I mean examples like this, where you'll see someone's t-shirt with a message that clearly they haven't read, they don't expect anyone else to read, it's not designed to be read. Sometimes there are large paragraphs on the outside of shop windows that are not designed to be read by anyone, they're just there as decoration. And I also don't mean failed attempts at English communication. So here we see from English.com an example of a sign which is badly translated but was actually intended to be read by someone who presumably didn't speak Chinese or Japanese. And I'm not including those under English, right? Learner English and badly translated signs are not English, at least not as I'm discussing today. Okay. So when I say English, I really mean a register of Japanese, which I'm calling Japanese quasi-pidgin English. Quasi-pidgin, well, so first pidgin. A pidgin is a simplified version of a real language that's designed to facilitate communication between people who don't speak another language, who don't speak the same language otherwise. Okay, most of the cases of these are, let's see, so they can eventually form creoles that do have their own native speakers, but they often start out as communication between like the colonized and the colonizer. And what's defining about those pidgins is that they don't speak the first language, and that creates the need for this artificial third language. In this case, though, Japanese quasi-pidgin English is a quasi-pidgin, and I'm calling it that because the speakers actually do speak the first language in this case. All parties to the communication are assumed to speak Japanese. And this is a part of, it's a part of communication between people who speak Japanese, ergo it's part of the Japanese language, and it resembles English. That's why I put English at the end there. Okay, so it is intended to be understood. That makes it different from decorative English. It has regular vocabulary and grammar, right? It has a grammar, it has vocabulary. The vocabulary co-locates with other vocabulary. The words combine in ways that generate meaning, right? So that's vocabulary and grammar. It's not like the t-shirts that we just saw where the words are seemingly chosen at random and are not designed to be read or understood at all. But something that it has in common with decorative English is that to some extent, the medium has to be part of the message because, as we just mentioned, the parties all speak Japanese to begin with, so there has to be some reason that they're choosing this alternative register to communicate in this case, right? It's also the most common type of English. As I mentioned, it's more common than decorative English, although you do see a lot of decorative English on t-shirts in Japan. And it's definitely more common than failed attempts at communication with people who really don't speak Japanese. So more reasons that this is a part of Japanese and not a part of English. One is that it almost completely intersects, overlaps with the community of people who speak Japanese. The community of people who speak Japanese and the community of people who understand Japanese quasi-pidgin English are exactly the same people, okay? So if you put Venn diagrams, it would look like this, right? There are a couple old people who don't understand quasi-pidgin English, but almost every modern Japanese speaker does. On the other hand, people who speak English don't reliably understand Japanese quasi-pidgin English. The intersection is mostly people who live in Japan who also speak English. So if you look at like an ad like this, and this doesn't seem odd to you at all, you probably just live in Japan. This word soft refers to software, not to like, let's see, the other main usage of soft in Japan is the type of ice cream, which is called soft cream. But in any case, that's not obvious to you if you have never spent time in Japan. And then, like, the name of this scooter, Let's Basket Life, would be pretty odd to you if you only spoke English, although these all appear to be English words. But if you grew up in Japan and you knew the conventions that surround the use of these words in Japanese, this wouldn't be that strange. Let's very commonly comes before nouns when it's used in Japan. This katakana, by the way, says exactly this is a letsu basket. And then, oh, so the life is not part of the scooter. So if you have this, if you have this scooter called Let's Basket, then you're living a Let's Basket life, I guess. Okay, so the demographics are one reason that this is part of Japanese, right? For the same reason, katakana is not a part of English, it's a part of Japanese. If you look at the Venn diagram of who uses katakana and who uses Japanese, it's the same people. It's not shared with people who speak English unless they live in Japan. For the same reason that station is not French, when I say it and I'm speaking English to other people who understand English, it's not a broken word of French, right? It's not a corruption of French or Latin. It's just an English word it comes from those words, right? Typhoon is not, broken Greek or broken Chinese. It's just an English word, and maybe it comes from those words, but a word is not defined by its etymology. We don't say Wednesday is a clear reference to Odin anymore, right? So, what's very interesting about katakana and English is if you asked someone in Japan what language they are, they would probably say it's English, right? What do katakana and English have in common? Although I've just argued that they're both part of the Japanese language, part of Japanese culture, they're both parts of Japanese that are defined as English within Japan. And that sounds very odd, but basically within the linguistic ecosystem of Japan, these particular features, these particular registers or syllabaries, are marked as being English, although they're not, and it's only within Japan that they have that designation. So they're a part of Japanese linguistic culture whose definition is being English, although they're not really English. Okay. So I hope ending on that confusing point didn't make the video as a whole too confusing, but I hope my point has been clear. So English is not English. English is part of Japanese. Katakana is even more so part of Japanese, not part of English. Thanks for watching.